Welcome to Affordable Athlete Meal Prep with Dr. J. This week we're going to make roasted chickpeas vegetarian style. If you'd like to follow along, here's our grocery list. Hello, I'm Dr. J and I'm back with another round. So we're going to introduce our ingredients today. One of the big things is a couple of these ingredients I have around the house, which would be specifically my spices, would be this onion, which was part of a bigger bulk bag that I bought a couple weeks back. And then this pepper that I had left over that I'm trying to use up. And also these green onions that have been at the house for a minute, which when I bought the package originally was 88 cents. But today I went to Trader Joe's. I spent about 16 bucks, which I'll lay out in our recipe receipt for you. I got this hummus, roasted garlic hummus for $2.29. I got this avocado for $1.50. I got these 3 Roma tomatoes at 29 cents each for about 87 cents. I got this lemon for 49 cents. This cucumber, it's a hothouse or an English cucumber, for about $1.99. And then I got 2 cans of garbanzo beans, aka chickpeas, for 80 some cents a piece. All right, and then I got this bag of mixed, it's called the Cruciferous Crunch Collection. Basically it's got different cabbage, kale, broccoli greens, and green cabbage in it as well. And then I bought this package of lavash bread, which we're gonna actually use as our wrap for these chickpea wraps today. All right, and then outside of that, a quick note before I get into some of the spices and the oil we're gonna use today. If you don't have a lot of spices at the house, I would suggest grabbing something super flavorful from the hummus standpoint or from a sauce standpoint, which will kind of help ease some of this. The main player today is going to be the Ahika Georgian seasoning blend. This is going to be my main go-to when it comes to seasoning our chickpeas. And then I'll use some of the onion powder, garlic powder, black pepper, paprika, and cumin in some of our mix. So we're going to make a chickpea wrap with roasted chickpeas, which we'll throw into the oven. And I'm actually going to start preheating the oven right now. I'm going to put the oven at about 400 today. All right. And then we are going to make kind of not tabbouleh, but like a knockoff version of tabbouleh to go with our inner wrap pieces. All right. We're going to make a knockoff version of tabbouleh essentially with the tomatoes, the cucumber, the onion, and a little bit of lemon juice and some oil. All right. We'll wash our vegetables and then we'll get it going. We're going to start out by getting the chickpeas drained and getting them seasoned so that they can be ready to go into the oven when that moment comes. Our chickpeas here, after we drain these, we're gonna put these straight into this pan. All right, so this is my paella pan. You don't even have to roast these chickpeas if you don't want to. You could smash them instead, since they don't need to necessarily be cooked. But if you buy dry chickpeas or garbanzo beans, make sure you hydrate them before you start trying to use them in this recipe. So I bought already prepared, essentially. They've just been canned, so all we need to do is drain these bad boys and then season them how we'd like. I wanted to roast them just to give them good color and give them a chance to have much more flavor. All right, so once you get these cans open, I'm gonna hold the lid shut and let them drain out most of the juice. Most of the time it's just a little bit of salt and water that they put in here to make it last longer on the shelf. Give that a good shake. Quick rinse here. Always be careful with these cans and never underestimate them. A little bit of water. This one is good to go. Drain this other one that I just spilled on the counter. All right, I'm gonna dump this straight into the pan along with these garbanzo beans. We're gonna dress them a little bit here. All right, that'll go into recycling. So we've got our garbanzo beans in here. All right, I'm going to cut up this pepper for us here. And we'll roast the pepper alongside our chickpeas. We'll dice these bad boys up. Perfect. The oven is done now, or at least it's done prepping. And so once we get all of these things dressed up, we'll be able to put them in the oven and let them roast. There we go. These are to my liking. We'll throw these into the pan with our chickpeas. With us making a vegetarian dish today, one of the things that I wanted to make sure I did was we make it colorful, and we're also adding in some things that'll bring it flavor. So I'm gonna give it a little bit of oil here. This is grapeseed oil. I prefer to use it. It has a high smoke point, and it does really well in a variety of settings. We're gonna use that Georgian spice, the ahika or ajika. I'm not quite sure how to say it. Give that a good dusting here. Big fan of black pepper, and I always like to add just a little bit of heat, so we'll add some cayenne to it as well. Got black pepper here. All right. A little bit of onion powder and some garlic powder. Bring it just a little bit more flavor. And then we'll throw in a little bit of cumin and a little bit of paprika. And not to be outdone, a little bit of cayenne. Give it a little bit more dusting of that Georgian spice, but I'm liking how it's looking and I'm liking how it's smelling. Another thing, when we're making things, you'll want to kind of do that smell test to make sure that you're getting good smells coming out of it, so you know kind of what it's going to taste like when you get to the finish. If you're not digging how it's smelling, or it doesn't have quite as strong of a smell as you'd like, add a little bit more seasoning. A little bit more stir here, and since our oven is ready, we'll throw this in. These will take about 20 minutes here. All right, we'll set the timer. Good 20 minutes going here, and we'll check it about halfway. Now that we got our chickpeas going, we're gonna take advantage of this time here, and we're gonna make basically a knockoff tabbouleh. But one of the ingredients that's included in tabbouleh that we don't have is gonna be bulgur wheat. And we're basically just gonna take advantage of the cucumber, tomato, and some green onion and onion, as well as lemon to make this blend. You're supposed to marinate it or let it set in the fridge for about 30 minutes. We're not going to quite have that time today, but just know that as this recipe sits in the fridge, it will get better as it has a chance to marinate and let those flavors set together. And since these green onions have been in the fridge for a little bit, they've got a few pieces that are a little bit wilted, but the majority of each of these plants looks pretty good. So I'll cut off the ends and I'll peel off those wilted pieces. And then I'll cut the edges that look like they've dried out a little bit, but the main part of the plant is pretty good. There we go. Now we got those ends off. We're gonna chop these up so you can make the most out of them. I'm only gonna include about half of the amount that I just chopped up here today, and then we can save the rest of it for something else. Now that we got our green onions in the mix, I'm going to go to our tomatoes next. We got Roma tomatoes. They're pretty sturdy tomato, so they'll hold up for being finely chopped or diced pretty easily. Chop all 3 tomatoes up the same way. Go. First tomato down, second tomato coming up. One more tomato. There we go. Tomatoes done. All right, time for some cucumber. If you want to, you can be done with the cucumber right here after slicing it and throw it right into the wrap. I'm dedicated to the tabbouleh mission here, and I'm gonna chop these into fine pieces just like we did with the tomatoes. It's coming out with some nice color. This looks really pretty actually. May need a bigger container before we're through here, but we'll see. Because then if you run out of chickpeas, you could eat this by itself, you could eat it in a wrap, you could eat it on chips, whatever you can imagine with it. But the good part is it's already made by the time that you want it then. And we're making the most out of getting some fresh vegetables and fruits in our body. And that's really the game, is making sure that we're getting ourselves better nutrients on a regular basis. And it's easy. It just takes time. And I hope that as you guys continue to watch the series, you're starting to see that it doesn't cost as much as we think it would. You know, if you were to go out and buy a chickpea wrap at a store, you know, you'd only be able to get maybe one of them if it's super cheap for $5, or you might end up spending $16 on a meal and only get one wrap, right? You know, and so we start to look at how these things cost and how are we able to fuel our body with the right things. And it's expensive to eat well when you're not cooking for yourself. But if you are cooking for yourself, all of this starts to get much more manageable price-wise, and you get used to making it and you get better at making it, and so it takes less time and it takes less effort, steadily by steadily, little bit by little bit. Okay, I definitely need a larger container because I'm overfilling this. Give me 1 second. So now I'm back with a bigger container here. Smooth transition. Smooth like butter. And we're gonna check on those chickpeas right quick because it's been about 15 minutes already and I have them in for 20 minutes right now. Oh yeah. Can you hear them sizzling? We'll give them some more time here. Smell good, starting to look good. The peppers are starting to cook a decent bit. My goal is that they get a little bit of color to them. They're not gonna necessarily, I'm not looking for them to dry out, but I am just looking for them to get a little bit of color and soak up that good flavor that we put on it just before they went in. So back to making more of our tabbouleh here. So we use the 3 whole Romas and we use this whole hothouse pepper. And we're probably only going to use about 1/4 of the onion, so not that much. And then we'll use probably about 1/4 of the lemon to get some flavor in, depending on how much juice it'll give us. And then we'll add just a little bit of some seasoning in there. So we don't need to add a whole lot of overpowering seasonings because we want that garden flavor, so to speak, here. So get this onion going here. Use this scrap bag to get rid of the outside here. And then usually I'll cut one more layer in if it has some defects on it. So we'll get just a little bit deeper. Cut it in half. And then we're gonna cut that into 1/4 as well. So thinly slice this bad boy. Just kidding, we're gonna use half of this onion. Big fan of onion. As I've mentioned before, onions have great anti-inflammatory properties, but as well, they bring a lot of good flavor to your food. So if you're not a big fan of onion, consider using onion powder like we have when we season the chickpeas. Otherwise, that would be a good option, or even like a dried minced onion would be a really good option to kind of get you the flavor you're looking for without necessarily the onion texture if you don't care for it. After a while, you're like, it's not so bad. Unless you're allergic. In that case, pay attention to your body. I'm gonna rinse my cutting board real quick. I just want to, because in case I want to use the lemon for something sweet later, I don't want it to have onion flavor on it. I'm gonna rinse my hands and rinse this knife real quick. Now that we're back, we'll get that lemon chopped up, and our timer is about to go off for our chickpeas. All right, let's turn the timer off, and we'll check on that in a hot second. We're gonna get some lemon juice going on for this knockoff tabbouleh. Try to make sure there's as few seeds as possible, but it can happen. Seeds be happening. Like this bad boy right here. I think most of the seeds are out of there. Ooh, yeah, that's the color we want. Got some good color to them. They're not looking so beige anymore. And our peppers are looking like they're ready as well. So I'm gonna get this up out of the oven. All right, we'll turn the oven off since we're good on it for now. I'm gonna put all of these items in a few different containers. And that way we can focus on our knockoff tabbouleh. All right, so far we've got onions, our tomato, and our cucumber, and then we added some green onion. All right, we're gonna add a little bit of black pepper. We got our lemon juice in here as well, and then we're gonna add a splash of grapeseed oil. You could use olive oil if you prefer, just to kind of help bring the flavors together. And then we'll give this a good stir. Be kind of gentle. We don't want to crush our tomatoes. We want everything to hold its shape, but to have some coating of all that good stuff going on here. I'm gonna add a little bit of some sea salt actually before I dump it on the floor, because stirring is hard. But that's okay. The good news is we're in here and we're trying, all right? And making effort leads to us making a difference. So we'll get this all stirred up here. It'll be best in 30 minutes, but for the sake of our video, we're gonna throw it together and we're gonna see how this comes together. I can smell the chickpeas right now, and they smell really freaking good. What's the Bob Ross quote? Happy little accidents. Well, I'm in the kitchen making happy little accidents, but this one is gonna be a delicious one. I'm gonna give this a taste test just to see where we're at here. I'm gonna add a little bit more black pepper to this, but it's good. I'm not gonna lie, it's good. As a few of my friends would say, I put my foot in that. I did not actually put my foot in it, but I put my foot in it. And this is only gonna get better the more it sits in the fridge for that 30 minutes or an hour, just letting all those flavors marinate together. And remember, we're doing this with an extremely limited kitchen. So even if you were only to just make this tabbouleh, you just needed a cucumber, you needed an onion, and you needed a Roma tomato. and a little bit of oil and some black pepper and salt and a lemon just to make this, which is not a lot. But look at how much this made. This is pretty big here. All right. So I'm gonna let this set while we start to worry about these chickpeas. And today's meal can be completely dairy-free if you want it to be. We're gonna fix the chickpeas in the wrap with a little bit of that cabbage mix and the lavash. If you want to, you could add cheese to our roll as we make it. But otherwise, this will be pretty good. And then I meant for these items to pair with pretzels, keeping it simple. So this is a meal that you could take with you on the go. It doesn't need to be reheated. It'll sit relatively well in your bag. Obviously, refrigerate it overnight until you're ready to take it with you, but it can sit in your bag for a little bit while you're at practice, or it can sit in your bag while you're going from class to class and you have a little bit of time and you can just sit down and have a real meal without worrying about needing to heat it up or needing hot water per se. So in our next clip here, we're gonna get ready to fix a plate. All right, so remember we got this avocado. We're gonna throw this in the mix. It'll help fill in that texture, but if you want to, you could, instead of an avocado or instead of the hummus, you could totally throw in mayo or your favorite dressing, whatever makes you happy and that fits within your current needs and demands, whatever makes sense. Part of eating is enjoyment. And I was really excited to bring these flavors together because I was impressed with the price that this ended up being. And so we're gonna get that avocado set up there, get this opened up, and our lavash. So this was only $2.49 for this lavash. It was $2.49 for this bag of mixed lettuce and everything. It was $2.49 for this bag of pretzels. And so all of these are relatively cheap. This package of lavash comes with 6 of these full-size ones that you see here. I'm gonna eat a whole one. If you don't eat as much as me, eat half of one and it's gonna last you twice as long. And if you need a little bit more, eat more because that's what your body needs. And so I'm gonna do a full wrap here. And remember, all we needed was an oven, but you don't even need an oven for this recipe that we made today. That's completely optional. So if you've got fridge space, this is a recipe that might be the one for you. Get a little bit of hummus here. We'll make a hummus stripe down the center. Be a good foundation for us to lay our chickpeas and our knockoff tabbouleh in. We'll get a little bit of this tabbouleh in here. This is I cannot explain to you how good this is. I'm very impressed with myself right now, but it's so simple. Doing right doesn't have to be hard. So we'll get a little bit of this in here. Look at how pretty these turned out. They've got good texture, good color, and I fear that I'm going to make a mess. And there goes one chickpea. So don't be like me, maybe use a serving spoon. We're gonna get a little bit of this mix in here. It doesn't have to be a lot considering how much we're gonna roll into this, but just enough for some texture. And that's really the biggest thing is I think a lot of people fear eating vegetarian or vegan styled meals just because they might not think that there's a lot of texture in those things. But I think if we know how to build them well and to build them out right, we won't miss out on a whole lot. And also finding what food sits with you best is part of the journey. You know, I found out that I do best as a flexitarian, and that's having some meals with meat, some meals without, but making sure that I have balance with that. And kind of making sure that I keep track of that and making sure that I'm still getting enough protein and most definitely enough carbs. Athletes need carbs and they're delicious. And it's the easiest way to fuel our muscles We work too hard to not take care of ourselves. And that's not even on rewarding ourselves. We work too hard to not take care of our bodies that do so much for us. Is it just me, or does it look kind of cool? It looks pretty. You see, I've got my lavash laid out right here. I'm gonna scoot some of this back so I can get kind of a good rolling motion going. It is going to be fantastic. If the lavash is not your go-to, maybe another good option would be a burrito wrap for this. That way you can kind of tuck in the ends. But otherwise, if you have like an aluminum foil wrap, this could be a really good way to eat it as well. So I'm gonna get out some aluminum foil right now. That way we can keep in the ends, but aluminum foil is relatively cheap and easy to get a hold of. I'm gonna rinse my hands real quick before I grab this aluminum. So sometimes aluminum foil can be a really good way for us to hold together our creations. So I'm gonna lay this out diagonally, and then that way can give it a good tuck here so that it holds all of our good contents in. And then I'm gonna roll it just like I would a burrito. And look at that masterpiece, all right? If you don't wanna put tabbouleh inside of your wrap, leave it for the side. And then I'm gonna serve this with a handful of pretzels, all right? And then that wrap will hold together. And we're looking at a good vegetarian option for being on the go or for just being at the house. Once again, this has been Dr. J. Thank you for joining me for today's cooking session. And as always, continue to be learning, continue to be growing, continue to take care of your body as you continue to take care of your performance. Rest is important, nutrition is important, and making sure our mind and body are taken care of is important. And as always, be refined by the grind.